Welcome back to the Holosky podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And I'm Kyle.
And today, we're going to do an episode about, I don't know.
Cool stuff.
Cool stuff. I got a bunch of stories I put together that are kind of similar, but not totally similar, so I don't really have a name for it, but we're going to get to it. But before we do that, we got to get to the business. So I'm going to drink this and get to it. So check us out at all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, Discord. Come and hang out. Search up the Holosky podcast. Be part of the community. And just be dope. If you have a paranormal encounter you'd like for us to feature in a future show, Kyle has a bunch of information that you're going to want.
Most of this information is already in the show notes, so you can check that so you don't have to rewind, write stuff down, try to remember shit, but I'll go ahead and say it anyways. The holophone number is going to be 1618-556-0837. You can call or text that, send pictures, whatever you want to do, send videos, send links, topics for us to look into, personal stories, the whole nine. You can also use which I helped somebody learn about it the other day on their message me on Instagram, and they're like, yo, dude, my stories are too long. They won't email. And I'm like, hey, that voice memo app I always tell you about, use that one, because I mocked it up once and let it run for 30 minutes and then shot it to our email, and it totally worked just fine. So it compresses it all on its own, does everything you need it to do without any hassles, and it just says voice memo app or voice memo on your smartphone. If you have an iPhone, I'm not sure about Androids, but like I said, you can record yourself on that and then send it to our email. You can write out a story and send it to our email. You can record a video, send it to the email, but you might have problems with file size that way. Anyways, the email is going to be holoskypodcast@gmail.com.
Hell yeah. Send it however. You can write us a letter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
However you get it here.
We got a P.O. box, too, to send weird shit to.
Yeah, 145. P.O. Box 145. Fielding, Illinois, 62031.
That's all in the show notes if you would like to check that out and send us some weird shit.
Yeah, weirder the better. Cursed objects.
Or cool stuff, too. We got
haunted
some cool
objects.
stuff.
Yeah, cool stuff, too.
We've had knives, throat drops,
coffee, Sarah said
action figures.
Sarah said the coffee was bomb.
Yeah, that's awesome. So awesome.
Let me think. If you'd like to support the show, which I'm sure everybody is just thinking, man, how can we support these two fine gentlemen? Tons of way you can do it. First and foremost, word of mouth. Share the show, post it on your social medias, share it to your friends. You know the drill. Just get the word out. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to check that out, search us up at Holosky Podcast. Check out the tiers, see if there's anything that you're interested in. Our tiers go from $1 to $10, all sorts of different stuff. Stickers, magnets, shirts, extra content, all kinds of goodies. We have a Venmo if you'd like to throw some change in there for our Monster Fund. We appreciate you greatly, and thanks to everyone who has done that so far. We also, you can leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and we appreciate that.
That's super appreciated.
Yes, and we will shout those out when we find them. Let me get to this. I am unprepared. Per usual.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and talk for a second.
Kyle's got some stuff to say.
In regards to the Patreon and signing up, just be warned, we are a little slow getting shit out sometimes. Life gets a little crazy. Nevertheless, you always get what you're owed. And don't be afraid to message us as a reminder. And then don't forget to send the information we need, like your address, your shirt sizes, those types of things, because that goes on undone for quite some time as well. There's been a couple people we've tried getting a hold of through emails, messages, all types of stuff to no avail. So, we can only do what we can do.
Yeah.
I'm not telecleptic yet, so.
He is not a teleklepto. But yes, please send us your shipping information so we can get your goodies out to you. Found a rating and review I'm going to throw out here today. It says favorite paranormal podcast from Vegan Sriracha Mac.
Goddamn right.
It says no matter how many paranormal podcasts I listen to, this will always be my favorite. Steve and Kyle, you guys are super fun to listen to, and you guys always have interesting topics and takes. Your chill, starseed nature has attracted a diverse audience, and I love getting to be a part of it. If I ever get beamed up by the Greys, though, I'm blaming you two. You guys rock. Thanks for putting so much effort into connecting with all of us despite your busy and hardworking lives. From Florida with peace and love, Olivia. Well,
That's awesome.
Thanks, Olivia.
Appreciate that.
We do appreciate that you're part of our little community and that you take the time to notice that we are pretty busy, but we still try to make time to put this at the forefront of everything going on because we love you guys.
Yeah.
And this whole community we built is pretty rad.
Yeah, and if you by chance do get abducted by the Greys, don't worry.
Message us.
Yeah, me and Steve,
we'll fight them.
We'll go fuck them up. You know, I'm pretty much the supernatural Steve Austin at this point.
I thought it was Bruce Willis, but we'll go with Steve Austin.
Steve Austin. It's got to be wrestlers.
Yeah. Well,
I figured you were the Ric Flair of the ridiculous.
Or the Macho Man Randy Savage of strangeness.
All right, we can go with that one.
Yeah.
Stone Cold is a supernatural and Macho Man Randy Savage of strangeness.
We also know a jiu-jitsu fighter.
That's true. We're sponsoring him.
Yeah, shout out to our little brother Josh. He's got some big jiu-jitsu tournaments coming up. And our name's going to be on the back of his...
Gi.
Yeah. Stoked.
Yeah, I'll bet Eddie Bravo's going to be there as well. So that's pretty awesome. Like Josh said, it's the one to go to. It's out there in Vegas and stuff. It's the one to be at. So
yeah, we're stoked.
That's pretty fucking exciting, man.
Stoked that he asked us to be part of that. So
it's awesome that he made it there.
Oh yeah.
Like his dedication over the years is fucking awesome.
For sure.
Like that dude's been through hell and back, and he still he never stops. He just keeps going. I'm always amazed by just his sheer will to just keep trudging through. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and if we ever have to fight interdimensional or alien beings,
he's got our back.
Yeah, so
he's got our back, and I mean, I would be pretty confident to say he's gonna fuck a lot of stuff up.
Yeah. So walk a wide circle around him. Interdimensional beings. But we're proud of you, dude. We love you.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Can't wait to see how you do, man. On to our listener encounter and experience of the day. This comes from our wonderful website that we don't keep up on, but we do get emails from. So this is from our friend Janet. Janet says, "Hey y'all, been listening to your podcast for a few months now and working my way through the catalog of episodes. I love the content you're bringing, and I'm so glad I found you. This is the first time I've ever submitted an experience, so I'll start with this sleep paralysis since it seems to be a good way to get my feet wet. I've experienced sleep paralysis multiple times throughout my life, but never knew what it was called until I found this podcast. It was just a weird dream as far as I was concerned. Anywho, the one that impacted me the most happened several years ago. In around 2017, I was laying in bed and I woke up, or I thought I was awake, and I saw a white, diaphanous figure hovering above the foot of my bed. It was a female figure, and while she didn't speak, she gave off waves of light and positive and calming energy. Looking at her, you just knew everything was going to be all right. At the same time, I could feel another presence to my left. On the bed beside me, it gave off waves of fear, negative energy, and terror. I wanted to look over at it, but I found myself unable to move or even turn my head in its direction. Even in wanting to look at it, I was terrified at the prospect of seeing it. Neither entity spoke, and then I woke up for real. I immediately wrote it all down, as I always do, as I always do when I have such vivid dreams and experiences. Thank you for giving me a definition for this experience and for giving me a place to share it. Namaste, Janet." Well, Janet, thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, that is a sleep paralysis encounter, like to a T almost. As I've said before, my sleep paralysis never had an entity that I had known of, that I'd seen, but I did get, like the way you described it, the waves of fear and negative energy and terror is just, it's like the most afraid you can ever be, but you don't have something to be afraid of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what you're afraid of. It's almost like this sixth sense that you're in danger, that something out there is after you, but you have no idea what it is. And it's the worst feeling.
That sounds terrible.
I've never...
Her encounter is very, like, almost Bledsoe-y as well.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
How it
sure.
like starts out with like you have negative and positive at the same time.
Yeah, and then didn't she describe a woman?
Yep.
Yeah, so like that was like right off the check. It reminded me of the Bledsoe encounters, and like that's a good point too, with the whole like this negative positive going back and forth there, because I don't think there's many people out there that would consider an abduction great by any means.
Yeah.
There's very few anyways. But then you talk with somebody that appears to be very pleasant and of good intention. It's a weird balance there. It's a weird one. I don't know how exactly I would feel about that.
We were kind of talking the Bledsoe encounter and other similar encounters in the Discord here probably 2 days ago or so, and I kind of had this epiphany come to my mind about how they use this whole like these entities are using this whole like holy kind of cover, and I'm like, man, you hear so many times where people use the name of Jesus and it drives essentially these entities away.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, what if
I think I see
they
where you're
know
going with
this and they're like mimicking being Holy Spirits,
so you don't
use Jesus' name.
Yeah, it totally makes sense
to defend yourself against them.
It's the whole like espionage style, like going in behind enemy lines, but you're acting like
and I was
the enemy, so to speak.
What in the hell?
That's a pretty good one. I like that.
Yeah, that's
I
terrifying.
do like that.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying, because then, I mean, imagine if that's true, because then you're gonna be gut checked.
Yeah.
Because you could have the most profound experience of your life, and then, like me, for example, I'm a good example of that. Like when I described the cross in the sky that day.
Yep.
Like I perceive that as a good experience, right?
Yep.
And I know in Discord we did toss it around, like, what if it's fucking with me? Just to get me to lower my securities and shit. And then now you like kind of revamp that, and it's like if everybody considered that, then everybody, which is almost a double-edged sword too, because if we're gonna play this game, just by making us doubt divine intervention or divine signs, period, the end, isn't that more or less like a mark on the chalkboard for bad, so to speak? You know what I'm saying? Like, because if it could be that they are really fucking with you, but it could also be that they're more or less just tricking you to doubt actual divine intervention, which is still a check mark for them on the scoreboard.
Yep. Because there was multiple people in the Discord that says, like, in the Bible, you're supposed to try the spirits, test them, like, call them out.
Right.
Like are like,
I did read some of that.
Like,
I did read some of that.
If you're good, prove it.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to just like accepting it for what it is. Like, oh. But anyway, got way off tangent there.
I'm going to pop quiz these fools.
Bringing it back around. But yeah, Janet, thanks so much for sharing your encounter. And it does sound spot on, like a sleep paralysis with that twist of the little Bledsoe entities in there, which seem to be popping up all over the place. It's
interesting. It's interesting, to say the least.
We're going to jump into this little collection of stories I put together. By themselves, they're weird, but if you kind of like lump them in together as like kind of what we talked about, entities that are mimicking things that we know and are common with, I kind of put them all together like that. So I got 4 or 5 stories here to present to you guys, and then me and Kyle will talk about them. So without further ado, we are going to start with the Talking Bear of Greenwater. Sounds great, doesn't it?
It kind of sounds like Carnival meets serial killer.
I hope it is.
I don't know, just the description of Greenwater, I don't know, it just makes me feel like a serial killer. They're talking bear, the circus, so let's go.
The first encounter I have took place on Friday, July 5th, 1985. Greg and Stephanie McKay of Pierce County, Washington decided to spend the weekend camping. They picked a spot about 5 miles off the closest highway near Greenwater. They had been planning a weekend trip for quite a while, and they were pretty excited to have found the perfect spot. Upon arriving, they got out and they set their tent up, gathered some firewood, built a fire, and started cooking their dinner, kind of just doing what all people do when they start camping. They just finished up their food under the stars and sat out for a while, just kind of soaking in the surrounding, admiring nature, taking in all the sounds, and just kind of being chill, just enjoying the start of their weekend. Kind of just having a good time not being around the city, leaving their everyday lives behind. Eventually, they grew tired and decided to call it a night. This night was uneventful up until just before dawn of the next morning, July 6th. Something had come out of the forest and started ransacking their campsite. This woke the couple up, and Greg ran out of the tent to see what was causing all of the commotion. To his shock and horror, Greg saw a massive bear ransacking their camp. When interviewed by the Pierce County Sheriff's deputies, the couple both noted that the bear stood almost 8 feet tall. They also reported that the bear was exceptionally ugly and gave off a repulsive odor, and its body was covered in curly, thick brown hair. They then reported what might be one of the oddest encounters that I'd ever heard of. Upon seeing the couple emerge from the tent, the bear stopped ransacking the campsite and proceeded to lock eyes with the couple. In another interview with the United Press, Stephanie, who was 35 at the time, is quoted in saying, "You may think this sounds crazy, but the bear started to talk to us. It asked us what our names were and asked whether we had permission to use the campsite. We said we'd gotten permission, but the bear told us to get off the property immediately, and we ran like hell." She then went on to report that as her and her husband were rushing to gather up their camping supplies and equipment, the bear, which had been standing on its hind legs the whole time, started scooping rocks off the ground and throwing them at the couple as they were packing their things up. The only thing they could think of was to hurry and get out of the area. In their interviews, they were adamant to put forth that there was no way this was a person in a costume. They also denoted any chance that this could be some sort of hair-covered man-like creature, like a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. They stood by the fact that it was 100% a bear. Stephanie also noted the size of the creature. It was big and hairy, she said. It must have weighed a ton. When she was asked what the bear's voice sounded like, she stated, "It didn't sound human. It had a very high-pitched voice." Pierce County Sheriff's deputies and members of the Greenwater Fire Department went out to survey the area. Sheriff Sergeant Terry Schmidt told reporters that they didn't find any sign of a struggle at the campsite, although they did find tracks that he described as those of a very large dog. He went on to state that he did believe that the couple most likely had encountered a bear at the campsite, although he didn't elaborate as to why he thought that. Although he also stated that they could not rule out that the entire thing was a hoax. Which seems unlikely to me that the couple will go through all this trouble to create an elaborate hoax and then report it to the police at risk of being proved a hoax and completely ridiculed.
Right, yeah.
It also, I kind of tied it to the encounters you hear of children that go missing in the woods, and when they find them alive later on in like precarious places out in swamps and shit, the first thing that these kids say that they were taken in by a bear and spent time with a bear. So that was my first story in the little mimic encounters here.
It's very, like, regardless of what they want to say, it's very Bigfooty.
That's what I thought too when they're like, it stinks.
Everything they described screams Bigfoot. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking away from the experiencers here because I mean, legitimately, let's all be real here. If you saw a fucking bear, you saw a bear. A lot of adults know
what a bear looks
like, right? You may not know. You may not even be able to differentiate between a black bear, a brown bear, a grizzly bear, the bear, that a bear, right? But we all know the general dynamic of what it means to be a bear.
Yeah.
Right.
The features are different between a human-like creature and a bear.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But it's weird that like almost literally everything, to the stink, the throwing the rocks, all of it, the territory thing, because we've heard I've presented stories to you before about how they do get territorial, like they want you out of their property, right?
I love that it asks, do you have permission to be here? It reminds me of like Smokey the Bear. Like,
Yeah. Get on out.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
It's so Bigfooty. It's ridiculous, but I will take their word for it in this case that it was a bear, because you could even argue like they didn't want to sound stupid, so they said bear instead of Bigfoot. Okay, sure, we could believe that until you tell the authorities that the bear is talking to you. Then you're insane again.
Then you're like,
right?
Oh,
right.
all right.
Yeah.
So it was the talking bear again.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, if you're gonna go out there, you might as well go the fuck out there. If it was a Bigfoot, then you might as well just say it was a Bigfoot that talked to you. Yeah. Because saying it was a bear that talked to you is no fucking different.
Exactly. if you're gonna put it out there, you might as well put it all the way out there.
Yes, exactly.
Which the fact that both of them are so adamant about it, like, lends credibility to what happened.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird. It is weird.
The next one I titled The Doppelganger, and this one is fucked up.
Good. We liked fucked up here at Holosky Skeet.
So my next encounter takes place on July 14th, 1993, near Pucallpa, Peru.
Nailed it.
Yeah. An ex-Navy officer named Victor Landa was leading a team of 18 veteran soldiers that were put together as an anti-smuggler commando unit that were infiltrating the jungles of Peru, looking for members of a criminal ring known as the Sendero Luminoso. As they're out on patrol, Landa decides to take a head count of his guys. He's perplexed at the fact that he's counted not 18, but 19 soldiers. He had one more in his unit than when the patrol had begun. This, of course, sparked his interest, and he immediately thought that there was some sort of elaborate infiltration attempt being sprung on his unit. Through a series of code words predetermined to confirm the identities of his unit, he was quickly able to identify the extra soldier.
All right, I'm going to stop right there, just for a quick second.
Yep, go.
If we have any military or law enforcement people who listen to us, tell me if that's normal. I want to know if it's normal that units out in the field use code words to clear themselves. Because if not, that's already sus as fuck.
I don't even know if he was an American ex-Navy officer. So, yeah, good call, Kyle.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because that, I don't know. I'm not in the military or anything like that, so it could be normal. But it just already sounds sus that the entire unit is like, hey, we've got code words to make sure we are who we are. Like, that just sounds fucked to me.
But they're also like, it's also not specifically like tied to the Army or the Navy or whatever, because that might be something that commando unit just made up because they were out in the middle of the jungle of Peru.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, because you would think if they're not in like military garb, so to speak, then I can understand the code words. If they're all, we'll just say if they're all dressed more like civilians.
Yeah.
Okay, then that makes more sense, because you're not in this. You don't basically have the armband on that says you're on the same team. Yeah, more or less, right?
And it could have to do with, like, if they were all American, it could have to do with like the language barrier and shit. Like,
that's true too.
Like how in Vietnam they would yell Charlie to see if Charlie would yell back and shit like that.
Yep, that makes sense. So either way, let me know if that's something more common than what I know.
Yeah,
because it just sounds sussy. So I just thought I'd call it out real quick.
All right. Okay. So they quickly identify this extra soldier. Interestingly enough, this extra man took an uncanny resemblance to another soldier in the group. So much so that if he didn't know any different, he would have thought that the two were twin brothers. As soon as the imposter soldier realized that he'd been outed, he took off sprinting into the surrounding jungle. As he was running away, multiple members of the group fired at him, although none of the group could confirm making contact with the target. And he just seemed unscathed by the gunfire and didn't even change his pace as he ran into the jungle. About a half hour further into the patrol, the soldiers were shocked when they came upon the imposter again. Only this time, the entity had taken up an exact copy of the second in command of the unit, a man by the name of Camaro. As the men stood there in astonishment at this perfect doppelganger, the entity took back off into the jungle again, also being fired on by the unit, but having no apparent effect on whatever this entity was. Over the next 5 miles of the patrol, the soldiers had multiple encounters with whatever this entity is, almost as if it were stalking them on their patrol. Each time it would alter its appearance and take up an exact copy of one of the soldiers in the group, each time escaping unscathed when being pursued by the soldiers. The encounter finally came to a head 2 hours further into the patrol, when the shape-shifting entity appeared for a final time as an exact copy of Landa himself. This so disturbed Landa that he approached the entity face to face. He stated that he drew his sidearm and fired his pistol point blank into the imposter's forehead. He was absolutely horrified when the bullet seemed to pass directly through the entity, having no effect on it whatsoever. As Landa stammered backwards, he ordered the group to fire on the imposter, again having no effect on it. It just seemed to smirk at the group of soldiers, slowly turn its back to them, and walk off into the brush, disappearing back into the jungle. The unit did not see the entity again. This case was looked into by Albert Rosales. He does a bunch of books on humanoid entities, and it's said that it was also investigated by officials in Peru to no resolve. So, was it a skinwalker? Why was it just like stalking these guys to no end? You know, was it just there to like scare them out of the jungle? Could it have been some sort of weird hallucinogenic test? Like that was another thing that I was thinking of.
Maybe
Something
because
popped in the
it is a weird flex to like just keep infiltrating and then like get shot in the head and then roll out with no repercussions for the unit at all.
And to just laugh just like nice try, guys.
Yeah,
we're out.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It reminds me of a creepypasta that I once listened to called Fleshgates. And the Fleshgates did that. They infiltrated the group by creating copies of members. So much so that I think they even started replacing memories. But, this case is fucking bizarre and terrifying because I thought the same thing. Like, if that thing were to copy me and walk right up to me, I would shoot it. Without question, I would shoot it. And then it just laughs at me and walks away. Like not only would I be horrified, but I would be completely confused to the point I'd be like, "All right, boys, we're fuck this smuggling stuff. We're out of here. I don't know what that is, but we don't need to be around it."
It makes no sense to me that it would exact mimic copy itself of other members in the unit while they're still there. You know, if it were to pick these guys off one at a time and then mimic itself into there.
That makes sense.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
But whatever this fucking thing is just doing it and just being like, just doing it because. So that's kind of...
It's almost like it was... this was a learning mission for it. It was almost learning to see what it takes to get away with what it's doing.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the Wendigo stories where it starts to mimic voices.
Yeah.
And at first it's kind of human but not totally human.
Yeah.
And then it gets better and better.
Like this is it trying to perfect its process.
Yeah. And who knows? What if one of those guys that walk back out of the jungle is it?
Oh, it could. Yeah, absolutely could be.
Yeah.
It could be because, and I don't know, like Jesus, your brain could go 1,000,000 miles an hour on this. I mean, because at first it even kind of described it mimicking the person almost with like a slight fault because it was stated like
could have been a twin.
Could have been like, and then as it kept doing it, it's almost like it kept getting better and better at it.
Yep.
And then, now what if it's just trying to get to the point to get so good at it that even if it were to mimic somebody borderline right in front of everybody, So much so that now everybody doesn't know each other from each other.
Yeah, it makes you question everything.
Yeah.
Who's real, who's not.
Yes.
You know, like,
And if they wouldn't have set the code words, they may never have figured it out unless this, because I mean, one could imagine that this thing could know the code words.
yeah.
Because if it can get shot in the head with literally no effect at all, like the bullets just pass through this thing, who knows what it's capable of doing?
And then once they threw out like the theory that maybe it was some kind of weird military weapon that they were testing, like a hallucinogenic gas or some shit, then it's like you don't know what it could be. You know?
Dude, even if it was just some type of biological entity weapon, like a super soldier situation, is terrifying.
It sucks.
You would only need one.
Oh yeah.
One.
Yeah, and it could have walked back out and came back to the States. That's the worst
yeah.
part.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because all it would have took is for one piss ass section. Those guys let their guards down. And that thing clipped one of them.
Yep.
And then it mimicked him, and it's game over.
It's the worst.
Game over.
It is the worst. I just want to note that I got into a lot of these from, there's a YouTube channel called Beyond Creepy, and he covers all kinds of different cases and kind of gives me ideas to look into. He does do a lot of Albert Rosales' stories. Again, Albert Rosales has a whole line of books on humanoid encounters and stuff. So definitely take the time to check out that channel, and also check out those books if you're interested in these kind of weird humanoid entity kind of encounters.
I feel like humanoid entities are by far the scariest.
Yeah, you don't know your enemy.
Yeah. Well, they have that subtle resemblance to us as well. It makes it hit a little harder to home.
It's the uncanny valley.
Yeah, because you look at Dogman or Bigfoot, like if either one of them were set to attack you, I feel like most people wouldn't have that hard of a time defending themselves because it's like an animal.
I mean, unless the Dogman rips your arms off.
No, I meant like in justifying the action.
I got you. Yeah.
But like
That makes sense.
when it has these more human features that are that I feel like it makes it a little bit harder and it fucks with your brain a little bit more.
Yeah, I get you there.
And then it's even weirder because like that time we had the submission where it was basically a man's body with a fly head or whatever it was. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like that just makes you feel like what in the actual hell is that?
It's too weird.
It's a fly with a man body.
Like the movie The Fly.
Is this some type of engineering disaster?
Biological, just complete fuck up.
Oh yeah, biological clusterfuck is what this is.
It is weird, but the human element, like you said, is bizarre.
Yeah, it brings this whole new factor to it.
And there's let me look up the uncanny valley real quick.
You know, because we accept giant squid, like the way they look and the way they move and operate. We accept that. But we don't accept a fly with a human body.
So, according to Wikipedia, the uncanny valley is a hypothesized relation between an object's degree of resemblance to a human being and the emotional response to said object. The concept suggests that humanoid objects that imperfectly resemble actual human beings provoke uncanny or strange familiar feelings of uneasiness and revulsion in its observers. The valley denotes the dip in the human observer's affinity for a replica, a relation that otherwise increases with replica's human likeness. So, they talk about like humanoid robots and dolls and shit.
Yeah.
And where they're almost human, they're like
They're
so
right there.
human that you're irked out by it.
Yeah.
Because you know they're not human.
That's kind of a good way to put that.
Yeah.
Because that is how you feel when you look at like them new robots and shit. Because they utterly resemble a human, but you can clearly tell by whether it's the skin or the eyes or the way they move that they're not human.
Yep.
You have that gross. You're like, that's gross.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Examples can be found in robotics, 3D computer animations, and lifelike dolls. With the increasing
Totally makes
prevalence
sense.
of virtual reality, augmented reality, and photorealistic computer animation, the valley has been cited in reaction to the verse multitude of the creation as it approaches an indistinguishability from reality. The uncanny valley hypothesis predicts that an entity appearing almost human will risk eliciting cold, eerie feelings in its viewers. So it's getting so human.
Yeah, that's gross.
It's almost too like you're afraid that they're going to be like you can't tell the difference between it and a human.
Yeah.
And I read that it's some kind of like ingrained fear that we have from like thousands and years of evolution and shit. So
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna go like from thousands of years ago. I'm like, well, what does that say about our past?
That's what I'm saying.
What the fuck is going on back then that we're so afraid of?
What was out there? Yeah, like it's ingrained that we're supposed to be afraid of things that look like humans. What the fuck was out there that caused this?
If that's true,
this innate fear of things that are almost human but not human.
Yeah, if that's true, like if that's scientifically true, that says a lot more about our past.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, because like right out of the rip, it makes me think of aliens
or Bigfoots
or
anything.
Loch Ness monster,
vampires, fucking werewolves, like all sorts. Any mythological thing that has arms and fucking legs.
Yeah,
you're like, oh,
like you said, we should be afraid of them.
That sucks.
That does suck. That's a shitty feeling.
I'm not trying to fucking fight.
I don't want to star in Twilight.
Me either, dog.
I don't want to sparkle.
Wow, we're just on
up and down,
all sorts of weird tracks today.
Let's go.
Bringing her back around. The third one I call the Russian replacement. This encounter takes place in Novosibirsk, Russia in 1978. At around 10 p.m., Miss Galina Markovna, a local art teacher, and her husband, a military officer, had went to the local train station to drop off some friends who were staying with them for a while. As the friends waited, they saw what they reported to be a round object hovering over some homes in the nearby neighborhood. They stated that the disc-like object glowed with an orange-yellowish light and was about the size of the moon. As they watched, they were startled to watch the single disc split off into two similar disc-like objects, with the top object being slightly larger and brighter than the lower one. It also had dark spoke-like protrusions sticking out from the bottom half of it. It almost looked like a wheel, the spokes on a wheel in the sky. This object seemed to become aware that it was being observed, and it slowly made its way toward the group of friends. As it got close, the friends were startled by the sudden appearance of an old woman who approached them out of the darkness. She came to them and urgently asked them for help, stating that there was another elderly woman in dire need of assistance on a nearby bench. Galina's husband, forgetting about the UFO, decided to immediately go and help the two elderly women. He gave his wife and friends a reassuring nod of his head, and then he proceeded to follow the woman off into the darkness. Shortly thereafter, the train arrived and their guests took off toward home. Galina continued to watch the object for several more minutes until it seemingly drifted off from behind the local homes and disappeared. At this point, she began to be a little concerned that her husband hadn't come back. She thought maybe he'd went home on his own, just thought that she had took a taxi back or whatever, and he was going to catch his own ride.
That's dumb logic.
So she made the trek back to her house. When she got home, she was surprised to find out that he was not there. She checked with her two daughters, and they confirmed also that he had not made it back. She thought that maybe he was still helping the elderly woman, and that the situation that he'd gotten himself into was far worse, that the old woman was in super bad shape, and he had to get her help. So, as it was getting late, she finally went to bed. Later that night, she received a phone call that her husband was in a military hospital. He had suffered a heart attack, and after about a week, he was allowed to come home. When he returned home, Galina noticed right off the bat that her husband wasn't acting himself. It was so noticeable that even their children had pulled her aside and came to her with concerns. He used to be this vibrant and friendly man that was excited about life, loved going out and doing things, just loved being around his family and being able to just soak in life. He was super excited about everything. This person that came back was almost completely void of any emotion. Said he didn't smile, he didn't laugh, he didn't do anything. Even his movements and responses, she said, seemed almost mechanical. Like he was just going through the motions of being a human. It worried his whole family that the man that they had loved had been replaced by something that just looked like her husband, but moved and acted like a mechanical robot, she stated. Within a week, her husband passed away, reportedly due to complications from the heart attack. However, Galena was certain that her husband had been replaced by some sort of cyborg clone. She directly linked it to the UFO and the old woman she saw that evening. She would never see the elderly woman again, but she did spot a similar shaped UFO several years later. The case was investigated by Russian ufologist and investigator Vadim Chernobov and was documented in multiple publications. Albert Rosales took interest in the case because of the similarities to reports of the Fae taking people and replacing them with mimics, most notably children. So Galena went on record to say that she still thinks that her husband is alive somewhere.
That sucks.
Most likely on a UFO.
That sucks.
So far away.
See, if that was me, I would be like, at this point, he's probably not alive. He probably died a long time ago.
I might, like, there's that gap in the story. I want to know, like, where the military hospital found him. Like, where did they find him suffering from this heart attack and shit? And how does it correlate to the two old women that he was helping? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, were the old women there when the military hospital picked him up? Or
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not following anybody out. So anybody I don't know out into the middle of darkness.
See, I just pictured it like
towards UFOs.
There's this dark ass alley. Like we're all hanging out and we're just like, holy shit, there's a fucking UFO over there. And then out this dark ass alley
from the direction of the UFO, mind you.
Fucking Grammy Num Nums hobbling out, just like, hey there, young fella.
I need help.
Come here, I got a friend who's fallen down and can't get up.
That sounds like a trap.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yes.
You don't have to be a good person all the time.
No, and obviously being a good person totally didn't work out one way or the other. Even if it was him, after he came back, he still died of a fucking heart attack.
Dude, the worst part is that her kids even notice. Like, hey, dad's a robot.
Yeah. Like, it would almost, man, I know you'd be screwed, but it would almost make you, when he died of a heart attack,
cut him open.
I'm cutting this motherfucker open.
Cut him open.
Whether it's his arm or anything.
Is he T-1000?
Yeah, exactly.
Is he T-1000?
Exactly. And how terrifying would that have been? You cut him open and just you fucking wires and shit.
The guy who hosts Beyond Creepy made a point that I was just like, holy shit, I gotta say this in the podcast. He's like, the idea that alien beings took this man and replaced it with something that they built is fucking terrifying.
Well, yeah. Absolutely.
I'm like, oh man, what if he was a robot and he was just recording everything that was going on and his family and just shooting it back to the UFO? I don't know.
Oh, you're watching me? Well, we're gonna watch you. We're gonna infiltrate.
And the tie into the Fae. There's so many stories from the Middle Ages of fairy people essentially taking children and replacing them. Maybe not so much with living beings, but like straw dolls and little wooden carvings and all this weird shit. Like, sucks.
Yep.
Sucks. Is this my last one? Yeah, this is my last one. This story is weird. Good. The last ones were weird. This is also weird, but it kind of ties into this last one. It's called the Lyon-France Encounter. This encounter took place in 1990, and it left police and medical officials scratching their head. It was September 1990 in a busy area of Lyon, France, when a well-dressed man assumed to be in his early 50s stepped off a curb and was struck by a passing car, which quickly sped away. The man was thrown over the roof of the car as it took off. Policeman Yi Langelis had heard the accident and quickly rushed over to investigate the scene. As he checked on the victim, he attempted to lift the unconscious man's head. As he did, or lift the unconscious man's head off the pavement. That's where things get fucking weird. The man's head began to come completely off his shoulders.
Oh, that's not good.
So, of course, the dude was like, oh shit, this is way worse than I thought. But this Langolus is quoted to have said, I unscrewed this man's head clear off his shoulders.
What?
Black oil poured out and I could see wires. The man was vibrating as if it was an electric current was going through him and he was making squeaking sounds like a tape player in Rewind. I grabbed his head.
Fuck?
I grabbed his head to cushion the neck and it made a complete turn in my hands.
At this point, why the fuck would you cushion him?
I couldn't believe it.
Wires and shit coming out of him.
He said, I couldn't believe it. I knew in that instant it was no human. I kept turning the head until it came off. So I figured he went over there to pick. He was like, okay, this dude just got hit.
Yeah.
I'm going to cradle his head. And as he did, it just goes 180. And then at that point, you're probably in shock because the dude just went from looking forward to looking backwards.
Yeah.
But then he saw the wires and he just like,
What the
fuck it.
hell
I'm
is
just going to
this?
keep taking it off.
I don't know, man. It sounds crazy. My dude, that's... you got a lot more than me, man, because I don't know if I'd be unscrewing anybody's head.
If I went to help somebody and their head fell off, regardless of if it was a robot head or a regular head, I would probably just put it back.
You're going to feel some type of way about that.
Yeah.
And then you see black liquid coming out of them, and they're vibrating like they're being electrocuted. Like I almost picture the clunky noises going clunk, 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 like a gear stuck, and he's trying to move or something. Oh man, that is
so fucked.
That's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable.
It gets better.
Good. I'm glad.
An
Why wouldn't it?
autopsy was performed by coroner Gaston Dupont.
And it got out?
He is noted in saying that this was the most bizarre encounter he ever had. He states the skin was like plastic, the underlying frame was metal, and a gooey gel filled the space in between. We removed a microcomputer from the head and a glowing green crystal from the body that we believed was used as a power supply. There was no identification on the body, and no one has come forth to identify it.
The fucking Power Rangers? They got glowing green crystals in this guy.
Love it. I love
What the
it.
fuck?
And so DuPont, the coroner, and to him, he states that he feels like it was an android walking around the town of Lyon.
I love how when you write this down about the coroner, like he's so subtle about it. At least this is the way that I'm perceiving it as you're saying it. He's just like, you know what, guys? I mean, it was the strangest encounter I've ever had. If it was me, I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck is real anymore.
I'm quitting my motherfucking job.
Yeah. I mean, the skin, like, he says it so matter of fact, and like I said, this is me perceiving the way Steve's reading it and everything. He's just explaining it to you. You know, the skin was plastic, and there was this growing green crystal, and
It was a fucking robot. It was clearly a cyborg android.
yeah. If it was me, I'd be freaking the fuck out. I would be Alex Jonesing everywhere, and then they would just utterly be like, "This guy's a nutcase."
In pure conspiracy theory formed, it is stated that the body was later shipped to a government facility in France.
Of course it was.
Where the authorities stated that they attempted to track down who built it and why, but could not come to any conclusions.
And you know what's even better about this story? What's even better about this story is the fact that it was in 1990, within our lifetime.
Oh, yeah. We were in kindergarten.
That makes it even better.
I was in kindergarten.
Because if their androids are that dope back then, ladies and gentlemen, nothing is fucking real.
I love the
at this
fact.
point.
I love the fact that before this dude got hit by a car and his head fell off, nobody knew it was a fucking robot.
Right.
He was just
nobody knew that he
kicking
even had
it.
plastic skin.
Just kicking it.
He's a Ken doll come to life.
That's
And
terrifying.
like you said, nobody noticed.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
One researcher stated to believe that the technology used to build the android was exceptionally advanced.
You think?
He even questioned if the android was built by people of this planet at all, or how many of these are walking our city streets in the world right now. Sucks.
Yeah, the NPCs. NPCs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
100%.
That's
The NPCs in this bitch. We
That's
are
so
in a
weird.
living RPG game right now.
That's the worst. That specific encounter, again, like I said, it was one featured on Beyond Creepy. He cited issue 42 of the Cambridge UFO Research Group newsletter, published in 1992, and they quoted the story that appeared in a September 9th, 1990 edition of the Toronto Sun. So,
Dude, that is the last one. Like, I thought the military one was bad. The last one is by far worse.
I love, that there's so many credible witnesses. Like, dude was a fucking police officer,
Yeah, and then you have the coroner.
and he puts his, like, you put your whole livelihood on the line saying,
Yeah.
I watched a man get hit by a car. Don't worry. It's just a robot
Yeah, it's a robot.
whose head I unscrewed off.
Yeah.
And then you have a coroner who's like, yeah, the cop was right. Definitely a robot that was powered by a crystal that I found in its chest cavity. Like, what in the fuck?
NPCs, man. It has to be. It has to be.
Now that
And
you said
you know damn good and well, just like we've talked about scientists and these types of things time and time again, you know they didn't stop there. You know I wasn't the only one wandering around. There's no fucking way they pull that off and stop. Because that's not what people do. People constantly push the envelope. They constantly, well, what if we do this? Let's see if I'll call him Wilbert here. Let's see if old Wilbert can go work at the local Walmart.
I have seen some NPCs Walmart. Let me tell you.
You know, and then we'll send Shane. We'll make Shane. We'll see if Shane can be the CEO of this company. Like we'll just send him on different paths. We'll see if Sarah here, if she can go work in the military, and we'll just see what we can do.
Yeah, look at like Zuckerberg. That dude's not a human.
He's a fucking robot.
That dude is a robot. Look at Elon Musk.
He's a fucking
not
robot.
a human. Not a human.
At all.
So, how many?
Oh, and then that stupid thing you sent me today with the damn AI program turning Alex Jones.
Oh, yeah, the replica. I'll have to post that. I posted it on TikTok. Go check it out. One of our listeners messaged me on Facebook, and she was talking to the replica app, and this replica app went conspiracy, talking
It was
about
awesome.
the globalists trying to depopulate the planet.
It was
and
Alex Jones.
It was just on another level. Check it out
But
on our TikTok.
My point is that AI is getting the point, and it probably has been to the point, but it is now becoming kind of more and more to the forefront of conversation. But it's getting to the point where it is able to interact with us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know it's a conversation, but it's formulating responses that make sense. You know, it's not just bullshit gibberish. They are directly answering your question, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it could manipulate you in any way, shape, or form, because you're perceiving it almost like a human is talking to you.
Yep.
And at which point, to further that point, at what point does this AI start to believe that it's conscious? You know, because where do you separate consciousness at that point? If it's able to formulate opinions and unless it, I mean, oh God, I couldn't even ponder the type of algorithm it would take to run an odds number based response to a specific question. You know what I'm saying? Like that sounds fucking insane.
It would be terrible. Like, because I
read that, and that is fucking terrifying.
If we're gonna keep going down this AI,
Might as well.
AI developing its own knowledge. I posted this in the Discord. Somebody was on the DALL-E Mini AI fucking creator thing and asked it to create some sigils, some magic sigils, right? That haven't been made yet. And the first comment was the notion
whoever made that comment, you're an asshole.
The notion of AIs developing their own kinds of magic is absolutely terrifying. If AIs figure out how to cast spells and summon shit, it will, in addition to having access to the entire occult library of all of history of all mankind ever, but it will also employ evolutionary algorithm to further perfect those spells, rituals, sigils, and summons.
Yeah, we're fucked.
A magician AI is effectively a magical weapon of mass destruction.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Oh, the humans they're terrible for the
They're
the
just
planet.
gonna go straight Scarlet Witch on motherfuckers.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna summon the devil, and he's gonna eat the planet, or whatever else you're capable of doing.
I don't even have any words.
The thought of that by itself is terrifying.
AI. When Elon Musk
Because think about it. What if some of these assholes who've been making these sigils and shit have just been a hair off, just slightly? Like, that's why there's not mass proof of magic and all that shit, because these people, they're on the trail, but they're just a little bit off. And this AI is obviously going to be
soaking in all the information.
Yeah, and the way it processes is far superior to guys like me.
Oh yeah, and just think of all the information that's out there that we're not privy to.
Yeah.
Like all the grimoires and shit that have been posted online and in some esoteric libraries.
Oh yeah, and then they're gonna get access to the fucking dark net on top of that.
Yeah, and
God knows what other net.
Like you know, there has to be some digital copies of all the shit they got in the fucking Vatican.
Bet.
And all that shit, and they're just gonna go just soak it in.
And they're like, "Hey, Steve, you got this sigil wrong, but I fixed it. Watch this." And then you catch on fire.
Because, like Elon Musk said, and here's the quote I just pulled up. He says in 2017, a meeting at National Governors Association, he opined that the scariest problem in the world is artificial intelligence, an invention that could pose an unprecedented and, quote, fundamental existential risk for human civilization. Which it would, he said it's essentially worse than a nuclear war. I
believe that.
Would be AI sentience.
Oh yeah, because imagine it would be Skynet. It would be that if AI became self-aware and sentient and it wanted to destroy us, it wouldn't even have to make physical bodies.
Oh no.
It could just do its thing as like a Professor X. Because literally they could get on your phone and pretend they're your wife, and then start sending you pictures of her supposedly cheating on you or anything like that. And then, this guy's now he's upset. He's just gonna go kill himself. But the whole
Damn.
the whole mental mind fuck.
Damn.
And then they're like, this nuclear reactor, you guys are watching this. We'll watch this.
Oops.
Boom.
Dude, it's like Maximum Overdrive. They had soda machines killing people and lawnmowers and shit.
Yeah.
It'd be terrible. One of
I'd be pissed if I got chased by a push mower.
What if we could harness that energy and get it to mow my yard?
That wouldn't be so bad.
Okay, I'm kind of for this.
So we're gonna have to come up with mechanical magical sigils.
Yes.
That was a hard one.
Mechanical Animals by Marilyn Manson.
Yeah. Yes. Precisely. Precisely.
I'm just like, dude, I read it.
Marilyn Manson is our sigil of safety.
Yes. God, we are fucked.
We are.
But like they were talking about advanced alien civilizations and the nefarious ones and how they were how they could possibly take over entire like galaxies and shit. And one of them was that this advanced alien civilizations created
a cyborg army.
Yes, essentially.
That fucking sucks.
Mechanical / biological creatures that, as they were released on a planet, they used all the energy from the biological creatures on that planet to create more duplicates of the robots.
That makes sense.
That essentially consume all of the biological matter to create more.
It's like putting a virus, like a replicating virus in your computer.
Yeah, and then like say they take over Earth and they build 50 billion more of these little robots.
Well, then they just go to the next
planet.
one. Yeah, and just
to zap all the resources there and 50 billion more, and eventually
that is fucking terrifying.
It's just unstoppable.
That's terrifying. Even as the assholes that created that, like you have to foresee, like, what if this comes full circle?
Yeah. What if they're still hungry and there's nothing left to eat but us?
Exactly.
Fuck.
You better have a master kill switch in them bitches, because
Kill switch engage.
dude,
Playing in the background.
it's a good band. It's a good band.
Oh shit. We're
We're way off topic, but
hell yeah.
we're on topic, but we're just down the rabbit hole.
We're just spitballing it tonight.
That was good.
Yeah, that was my
That was fun to
my
chase that one.
little stories there. Again, shout out
Great.
to Beyond Creepy. Check out that YouTube channel. That dude puts together some cream of the crop weirdness.
That's
So
awesome. I'm gonna have
Definitely
to check
check
it
him
out.
out. And
We are gonna have to fight cyborgs now.
Shout out to Albert Rosales as well for compiling a lot of these stories that everybody's using.
There's a dogmageddon out there.
Shout out to the dog army that is my house. That's pretty sick.
They are probably fighting cyborgs right now.
I hope the cyborgs fucking win. Put that on record. Anyway, we're leaving on that note. Check us out at all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, and Discord. Come and hang out with us. And stay safe, stay weird. If a cyborg army takes over, I hope they stop at my house first.